So that in continuation to yesterday's topic, we are also going to see about about the other sensors. What are the other different types of protocol-based sensors which can just access through this embedded kit, the MyRio, and also further to yesterday's topic of how we were acquiring the data. Even day before yesterday, I was showing the basics of LabVIEW. Now I'm going to quickly show you, first of all, how to make your your system standalone, which means that if you're deploying an application into your LabVIEW, what is the procedure to make it standalone? I'm going to quickly show you. On this regard, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blank project, or it can be a MyRio project, it can be anything. So I'm just going to click on the blank project. So to the blank project, okay, I can right click on the untitled project, new targets and devices. This is a procedure I'm supposed to follow to add a MyRio. You can see my computer is there, so that any process I do on my LabVIEW currently will be accessed by my computer processor. All right. So if you want this to be happening on your MyRio processor, then what you're supposed to do is right click, new targets and devices, and it will list out the list of devices that you can just connect to your project. And these are the list of devices that can be embedded system. Okay. So this is the device which are connected. For example, if I just quickly look into the other devices, it will try to detect, but since I have not connected, it says no item found, right? Whereas if you see my MyRio, you can see that I connected MyRio both the ways, which means that through cable also I connected, through wireless also I connected. I can just choose any way. I'll go with cable for faster access. So and I'll say okay. So if you want wireless, then you can go for the second method. Okay. So yeah, in the future, we'll also be showing you how to connect your MyRio to your network, how to create a network, everything we'll show you. But currently, we are just simply making it to be accessed through USB cable. You can see that your MyRio will be discovering all the pinouts, the chassis, what type of device you are connected. There are two different types of MyRio we have. Okay, so this is 1900 MyRio 1900 device. There is also 1950 device, which has a different chassis form factor. It has only a board. Okay, it doesn't have a module on top of it, a gray color module on top of it. All right, fine. So you can see that now to your computer, you can also see your MyRio processor being detected. All right. Now, not only a MyRio, you can also see there is a FPGA also. So you can write a program in three different ways. Now, if I right click on my computer, new VI, right? A VI will be created, and any logic I try to write on this VI will be controlled by the processor of my computer. Can you see? It clearly says that anything you do on this VI will be controlled by my computer's processor. Okay. So it can be Intel, i5, i3, whatever may be the computer you people basically use, right? So if I right click on my MyRio, new VI, if I say, right? So if I do any logics on this code, on this VI, it will be controlled by the processor of my MyRio. All right, it will be controlled by the processor of my MyRio. So any controls or any acquisition has to happen. The one who's going to be the head of that particular process is going to be my MyRio. That's why it becomes an embedded system. All right. And there is one more method. You can right click new VI. When you do that, your MyRio also have a FPGA inside, so that HDL application will start executing. So what happens is your FPGA will get configured as per the code you basically designed. All right. So any logic you try to put on here, that will be turned into FPGA programming, and that particular code will be deployed into the FPGA chip here. All right. Yes. So even in the first day, I was telling you people about the FPGA. You can also do FPGA programming. So maybe tomorrow we'll be demonstrating you people how to use an FPGA. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I want to right click on my MyRio, new VI, so that you can see that it is clearly running on my MyRio's processor. I right click on my MyRio, new VI. You can see under my MyRio, you have an untitled number 7. All right. I have untitled number 7. So I'm supposed to make this into a standalone application. So how to do this as a standalone application? For your reference, if you want, I'll also quickly connect my camera to show you how my MyRio is connected. So that if anybody is new who didn't attend yesterday's session, I'll just quickly tell you people how this is happening. So I'll open my camera so that you people can see the Myrio. So you can see the Myrio which I'm using here. So you can see it has two connections. One is a power supply cable. You can see this is a power supply cable. All right. So this is to power up my hardware, and this is a USB to serial converter. So the serial connection will sit here, and the USB pin will be on the other end of this cable. It will be going to my computer. All right. So this is how my Myrio looks like. This is a device named Myrio. All right. You can see it has a lot of chips inside. It has a FPGA and a real-time processor also. So this is a Myrio hardware. I've connected to my computer, and that's the reason you people can see it is getting detected. All right. So I'll come back to the my lab application. So this hardware inbuilt, it has, what are the inbuilt devices it has? Does anyone know it? Because yesterday I think it should have been told to you. So what are the inbuilt devices you have in Myrio? It basically has an accelerometer internally. It also has a button. It also has a LED. Okay. So now let me quickly do some application to make it into standalone. So what I'm going to do is to this device. All right. If you're connecting some external sensor, then you can use analog input, analog output, digital output. Those things you can use. If you want to use the onboard devices is like you have a button at the bottom and you have a LED on top, and also internally you have an accelerometer which is connected. All right. I wish to use all three, but for example, for demo purpose, I'm going to use a button. So where is the button situated in my Myrio is at the bottom. All right. At the bottom, you will see that there is a button. Can you see here? So this is a Myrio device. You can see there's a power LEDs, then source information, and you can program. You can see the programmable LEDs 0, 2, 3. Okay, programmable LEDs you have, and also you can see at the bottom this is a button you have. All right, this is a button. I'm going to configure this button. I'm going to name it as switch, for example. All right. So the name of the button, I'm going to access the variable name. I'll just give it to be a switch. All right, it's configured. So as soon as you click, you can show you create indicator so that you can see the value of that particular button. I want this to happen continuously, so I'll go with a while loop. So since I use a while loop, I have to use a small delay so that you can see that my computer is not going to be overloaded with the task. So now I'm going to execute only once in 100 milliseconds, which is sufficient enough for my application to execute. So finishing this, I'm going to save this. I'll come to your here. I'm going to name it as standalone application, for example. All right. Yes. So I'll also try to open the camera to you people so that you people can see how this device basically works. Yeah. Yeah, you people can see this, right? So I'll just show you the bottom. You can see there is a Wi-Fi button to switch on, which will just show you later. And then we have a button. All right. So you'll see that. I'll come back to my code and I'll run this program. You can see it is asking to save the pinouts. Yes, it is getting deployed. All right. So when I click on this button, you can see the moment I click on this button. All right. Yes, it's like a tactile switch. As soon as I click on, it goes high. When I leave it, it goes low. All right, we are reading if the button is being pressed or not. All right, this is working. Now I have some LEDs on top of this. Can you see the LEDs? There are some LEDs, programmable LEDs we have. I'm going to program these LEDs now. All right, so you can turn on and turn off these LEDs. I'm going to quickly show a program for that. Just watch. Okay, I'll stop this program. I'll come to the block diagram. All right. So I'll just take some more space inside the while loop so I can add some more logics into it. So this value, let it be displaying on my front panel, let it be. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to go for my, once again, my Myrio palette. In that, I'm going to use a LED now. This is a onboard LED. This entire row is for onboard button, onboard LED, onboard accelerometer. I'll drag and drop a onboard LED. All right. So you can configure all four if you wish. I'm going to name them A, second one to be B, third one to be C, and the fourth one to be D. All right, there are four LEDs. You can switch off if you don't wish to configure it. All right, I want to configure all four of them, so I'll just leave them enabled. Fine, you'll see that all four LEDs are configured. So you can wire a Boolean data so to send a true or false. If you say true, the LED is going to glow. If you say false, the LED is going to be switched off. So now I'll just quickly do some random logic. So what I'm going to do is, so I'll put a NOT gate. This is a NOT gate. All right. So for NOT gate, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to directly put the NOT gate for my B and C. And for A and D, I'm going to give the direct connection. So what is going to happen now is, so if I click on the button on my LED, on my Myrio, this particular switch will give me a true. So that true will flow to my A, making it on, and that same true will flow to my D, making it on. Right? Meanwhile, the true will turn into a false because of the NOT gate, and my B and C will be in off state. Same vice versa, it's going to happen. If I say false here, false to my A, false to my D, true to my B, and true to my C. Clear? A simple logic just to show you how this basically works. All right. So once again, I'll save this program. All right. Yeah. So I'll leave this to be grab. So you'll see the image. So you can see the button here, LEDs here. You can see the first LED and the last LED are off. The reason is I'm not clicking on the button. So as for the NOT gate, you can see LED 1, B and C is on, A and D is off. Now I'm going to click on this button here. Okay, just watch. When I click, I'll leave it here so you can see this, right? So when I click and hold it, you can see direct, as per the direct connection, A and D is on. Okay, B and C is off. When I leave my hand, you can see A is off, D is off, B and C is on. On, off. On, off. Okay, you can program this like this way. If you wish to connect to external sensors, yeah, you can use these terminals. Okay, you can use all these terminals to do the external connection. You have a connector to do this. So you have these type of connectors. So this is a screw type connector. You can just put it inside and do the connection. All right. Or you can use even the backside. In the backside, you have A connector, B connector. You can use female connectors to put a wire into it. All right. Yes. So now this code, basically, if you see, when I stop it and even run it again, you'll see that it is deploying. I'll stop it. And once again, I run it. You can see it says it's deploying. Okay, a window pops up and it says the deployment progress window. So it says that how much percent of the data is being deployed and everything is seen. Clear? So it means that, so even though you see whatever I click here, you see on the front panel. Can you see? You see on the front panel what is happening. But who's making the action? Who's controlling this process? Once I click on this button, LED should on and off, right? This process, who's controlling? Which processor is controlling? Which processor is controlling? The processor which controls is your Myrio processor. All right. So your Myrio processor is one which is controlling. That's why you can see that the entire code I have written in a Myrio program. Okay, just watch here. So this is the power cable. Don't remove the power cable. You should not remove the power cable. Rather, I'm just going to remove the connection between my computer and the Myrio. I'm going to remove. So as soon as I removed it, you can see that the connection to the target is lost. So you can see, but my Myrio is connected. There is no connection between my computer. My computer is the one which has a LabVIEW running, correct? So the program is running on LabVIEW. So the connection between LabVIEW and my Myrio is disconnected. But still, this process will be running. Just watch here. But still, this process, right? This process will be running. And you can see that on the front panel, there is no changes because the connection is lost. And because of that, you are not able to get the data to the host computer. To the computer, the data is not coming because I removed the cable. You can see that I removed the cable. All right. So this is working, no issues, right? It clearly means it's a standalone code, right? So when I talk about a standalone code, especially when it comes to embedded device, if I power off this, just watch it. If I power off this, I remove it, you can see that entire device is powered off. All right. So I powered off this device. And if I try to power it on, it initializes. It's more similar to your computer, okay? So you have welcome screen in your computers also, right? Something like that. This orange color LED of the status means that it is initializing. So finishing that, yeah. Now it is initialized. My Myrio is ready. Now just watch here. When I click on this application, the same application, when I click on the button, the LED should glow. That is Wi-Fi. Don't worry about the Wi-Fi. So when I click on that, the LED should glow and off. It is not happening. The reason is once the power goes off and comes in, the application will stop running. Understanding? The application will stop running. You can ask me why this is happening. The reason is we deployed a VI. When I talk about a VI, usually a VI needs a kickoff. You should say run, only then the VI starts executing. Even though the code is there inside. But we should connect to your computer. Just watch. What I'm going to do is, how to make this work is, connect to a computer. Once I connect to the computer, back to my system. All right. You have to come to your project. Say do nothing. It's a pop-up window. So I'll connect my Myrio back to the project. So it becomes alive. And kickoff. Kickoff is nothing but the run button. And you can see it's once again trying to deploy the same code inside. Now if I click on the button, it is working. Yes, even though if I remove the connection, maybe the connection between the computer and the Myrio will be lost, but the application will be running on the Myrio. Yes. So now, how to make this into a proper standalone? What a proper standalone is, even if the power goes off and comes back. Even if the power goes off and comes back, I want that application to be running there. Okay. If you want to do that, what I'm going to do is, I'll once again go to the connection. I'm going to show you how to make it into a proper standalone application. All right. I'm going to show you how to do a proper standalone application to you. All right. Fine. So I'll come back to my project. Okay. So I'm going to connect it back. Okay, so connected back, and you can see this is the code we are executing. This code is fine. All right, if I run this program, it's once again going to deploy and it's going to work, which is not I'm looking out for. All right, so I don't want that. I'll come to my project. You can see there is a build specification. There is one build specification under my computer, and there is one more build specification under my Myrio. So I want to do a MyRio standalone application. So what I'll do is I'll right click on my build specification. Maybe it's loading, just a minute. All right, I'll right click on the build specification. Sorry, here. New real-time application. Can you see? Right click on the build specification, which is exactly underneath my MyRio. There is also one more build specification under the FPGA, right? So we did a program under a MyRio. So you can see you're supposed to use a build specification under your MyRio. Right click, new real-time application. This will ask you to save the project. You can see the project is now untitled project. Okay, so it is prompting me to save it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it as a standalone application project. All right. Yes. So once you save it, it will pop up a window where you can configure a RT application into your MyRio. Yes. Fine. So it is asking what is the name of the application you want. You can give any name you want. Wish. For example, you can say button LED, for example. And what is the name of the RTEXE? You can see now, till now we were using .vi application. In a .vi application, always you need to execute the application, only then it gets executed. That's the reason even we saw that. So when you run the program, it will not directly execute. Rather, what it does is it will try to deploy the code and wait for you to just execute, only then it will execute, right? So now we are handling with a .RTEXE, real-time EXE application, where we will deploy a RT application, RTEXE inside. Okay. So I'm going to name it as button LED RTEXE, and you can see that that particular build, whatever we are doing, it is saved in my computer in some places. Okay. It's fine, no issues about where it is getting saved. I don't want to bother about it because at the end of the day, I'm going to deploy it into my MyRio. All right, so I'm not going to bother much about it. So I'll go to the category wise. From information, I'll go to the source file. So which file you want it to be a standalone? In my entire project, you can see there is only one VI. In case if you have 10 to 15 VI, all the VIs will be popping out here, right? So you can say which one has to be a startup VI. What is a startup VI? Which means that as soon as a MyRio is powering up, you have to execute that particular application immediately. We don't have to give a run the application command. Rather, it has to automatically happen. So I want this standalone application VI, where inside that I have a button and a LED application, right? So that I want it to be a standalone. So I'll just push it into, just see there. I'll click on this, push it inside. I want to take it out, click on this, push it out. I'll click on this and push this into a startup VI. All right. If you have any other, sub programs or some of the modules involved in that, just include into this. Right now, I don't have anything as such. So I'm just only pushing my actual application into this, and I'm going to say build. So what happens is this will now build your RT application. You can see that under build specification, there is nothing now. At the end of the completion of the build, you will see the RT application will be visible here. It will get created. All right. Yeah, you can see that the build is complete. You can see that now it is created, an RT application is created, and you can see it is saved in the particular location where I just wish it to save. Fine, no problem for me. I'm going to say done. All right. So you can see this is the RT application you want to dump into your MyRio. Before we were dumping this standalone VI, standalone application named VI. Now I want to deploy this into your MyRio. So what I'll do is I'll right click. I'm going to say set as startup. I'm going to say set as startup and right click. So once you say set as startup, this will be now ready to get compiled. So if you want to compile it into your MyRio, just say run as startup. So you can see that it is done. So once the installation happens, you have to reboot your system. It says that the Myrio target must be rebooted for the application to launch. Proceed with reboot. I'll say yes. So when I do this, what you will see is, you'll see my Myrio will get restarted. You'll see my Myrio application will restart. I have to wait for some time. So once it restarts, the application of my button, which is controlling my LED, will start launched. Okay, it will start launched. Can you see it is restarting? You can see now only the status LED is coming into picture. It means that it is initializing. I told you. Yeah, you can see that the Myrio is detected automatically because it has rebooted. The launch up has come. Now, if it is ready, you will see that as per the logic, your LEDs will be glowing. The Wi-Fi is ready. Can you see? It is now ready. So LED is glowing. Just watch. So if I press on this, it works. When I leave it, the logic is running. And now I'll remove the cable because you know that it is RTX is running, not the code. So my cable is not even needed. And let me say if I power off and power on. Power off and power on my Myrio. Before you saw that it was not working, right? So I have to connect back to my project, then I'm supposed to run the application, run the VI. Only then it was working, right? Whereas now I'm just simply powering up. It's a computer, as I told you, it's like a computer inside. So you have to just wait for it to enable. So the Wi-Fi started working. After that, the pinouts will start working. That's how it usually happens. Just wait for a second. Yeah, you can see that it is started. So when I click on the button, yes, as soon as I click on, it works. Yes, this is how an actual standalone should work like. So as soon as you power up, if you're doing it in a robot or whatever it is, as soon as you power up, it has to automatically execute. Clear? Yes. So any doubt in this? How to design a proper standalone? So if there is no doubt, I'm also going to show you after doing a standalone. Let me say you did an application, then now you want to rewrite it. I mean that you want to once again program it. So in this case, what you have to do is you take the cable, connect it back to your computer. Take the cable, connect it back to your computer. All right, fine. So now what you have to do is you have to just right click on my Myrio, open the target project, whichever Myrio is connected, right click and say connect. So here it will say, it will pop up an error saying that, can you see inside the Myrio you have a standalone application.vi which is running. Okay, so it says that, excuse me, the target is already running a RT startup application, which means that there is some code is jumped inside, which is basically controlled by your Myrio processor, Zinc processor. All right, press OK to confirm you want to abort the existing application, which means that when you click on this OK, what happens is it will get aborted. Whatever the standalone application which is running inside will get aborted and it gets connected to your target project. So what I'll say when I say OK, you can see that it gets aborted and the application will stop running and no more further response you'll get. You can see it, even though it is glowing, any changes, it will not be updating on my Myrio. Getting it? Yes. So now it is connected. Back to my application. So I can design some other code. I can go for different logics. I can dump it into, again, the Myrio. I can convert it into standalone. And once again, RTX can be generated. And I can once again dump it inside. It's as simple as that. Clear? Yes. So this is how you do a proper standalone. Whatever you do simply as a project and you run it, even though it gets deployed, you'll see that it is getting deployed. Can you see? It is getting deployed, but still that is not a proper standalone application. It is embedded application, but not a standalone application. There's a difference between a embedded application and a standalone application. All right. A standalone application is something which can take care of the startup and the stop also. Whereas a startup is a very important thing. So a standalone can usually take care of its standalone startup application, whereas embedded application, normal embedded application, where you just simply dump the code into it and make it standalone, make it embedded, that is different. Getting it? Yes. So any queries, anyone till now? Because I'm going to directly jump into my further things. Any queries, anybody? If there is no query, I'm going to quickly jump into the protocols which we can do using the sensors, because nowadays, if you see, most of the sensors are serial communication sensors we get in market. Either they use SPI, I2C, or UART usually, So those sensors, how I'm supposed to program it is using LabVIEW. I want to show, because this entire the training program, whatever we have planned, and the session which we are doing, it's basically concentrating more towards sensor interface and sensor application. All right. So, any queries, anyone? Okay.
No, sir.
Fine. If there is not much query, I'll quickly come to my slide. All right. See, we have come across all these things. The Myria has onboard devices, everything. These are like fine. So today we'll be using these kind of connectors. Yesterday also we use these connectors, and today we'll be using these MXP connectors, because MXP has all this, UART. You can see at the bottom, UART, transmitter, receiver. You have SPI connection. You have I2C. Can you see? I2C or I2C, either way it's fine. All right. So this is what this device has at the MXP connector. So there are two different types of connectors. One is MXP at the back side, and one is the MSP on the front side. All right. So MSP connector comes with a screw type connector. So you can unscrew the screws, put your wire, screw them back, and make it connected to the terminals inside. Whereas here it is just a pins. So you have to go for a female connectors. All right, and connect to your devices, whatever you really want to connect. All right, so this, it can use also processor, FPGA, and analog input and output. Fine. So this we have already seen. So quickly jumping into the protocols. Okay, so Myria basically supports three different types of protocol: a UART, I2C, and SPI. These are three different types of serial protocols. Your Myria supports basically. All right, and most of the sensors nowadays come up with either of these three types. Okay, unless you use a different communication model, like for RS232, RS432, or RS488, or even your Modbus. So unless you use these type of communication protocol, a simple communication protocol where you can directly connect your device. I mean, your device is nothing but your peripheral of your sensor. So sensors we call it as peripherals, okay, because it is connecting to your Myrio, so it is a peripheral usually. So your Myrio gets connected to your peripheral with simple protocols like UART, I2C, SPI. I'll quickly tell you the difference between them if you are not sure about how a UART or SPI or I2C basically works. Okay, so quickly taking you into UART. UART basically stands for Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. So that's what UART stands for. If you know, there are two different types of serial communication. First of all, let me talk about difference between parallel communication and serial communication. Then, when it comes to serial communication, I'll tell you about what are the two different types once again you have. See, now just think, I have a wire to transmit a data. Just imagine that I have a transmitter, I have a receiver, more similar to this, what you see here. I have a transmitter, I have a receiver, I have a wire connected to it. All right. So I'm just sending a data. Let me say a data A is passing here. All right. A data A I just simply pass. And now I say I have two different data to pass. I have a data A to pass and also a data B to pass. What I can do is I can take two wires, connect to them, and transmit A in the first wire, transmit B in the second wire. That turns out to be a parallel connection because I can parallelly send A and B at the same time. Correct? That's parallel communication. So now let me say I want to send this is 2-bit data. What I was saying, two data I was sending. A and B was a two different data I was sending. It's a 2-bit data I was sending. Now let me say I have 16-bit data now, right? Which means that now I'm supposed to make 16 connections now, right? Maybe the later point of time I want to send 32 data parallelly. So 32 connections I'm supposed to make. This is a parallel connection usually we come across. So you can parallelly have an individual connection between a transmitter receiver and send the data whenever you feel like sending. So to avoid this kind of keep on extending the the connections between a transmitter receiver, then we came across a serial communication. So what a serial communication usually does is it will use only one wire, same one wire, but it will send the data one by one. So if you have 16 data, first bit, second bit, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 data it sends one by one serially. All right. So that you need not physically have 16 connection terminals. Rather, you have one terminal, one connection, whereas serially you send them one by one. So by what happens is physically you don't want to increase the number of pinouts your device basically has. You're getting it? Yes. Whereas when it comes to serial communication, this is the difference between parallel communication and serial communication. All right. As the name itself says, when it says serial, it takes some time to finish its communication. It needs some time to transmit the data, receive the data, acknowledge the information. So it has multiple processes to involve. So you have series of data which is being sent one by one. Getting it? So coming back to serial communication again, I'm not talking about parallel communication, but I'm going to come back to serial communication. So when I talk about serial communication, there are two different types of serial communication we have. Once again, classified into two types. One is asynchronous, one is synchronous. There are two types. Okay. Even in the previous slide, when you see there are three types we are going to show. One is UART and one is I2C and one is SPI. Your UART is a synchronous method and your I2C and SPI is a synchronous method. So what is a synchronous? What is asynchronous? What's the difference between them? It's very simple. A synchronous method of transmission will basically have a clock pulse. Okay. So based on a clock pulse, you synchronize the data which is being sent. You understanding? You synchronize the transmission and the reception. Understand? Basically the receiver should understand when the bit is starting, what is the size of the bit, when it is stopping, at what speed it comes. Because the speed, if you don't bother, let me say there are like 111, 111 coming, right? So if you don't know that how much time a particular bit is gonna be available, it reads all the 3 bits to be a single bit. Right? Because all are same data. At least if the data changes from 1 to 0 or 0 to 1, you'll be able to find out that, yeah, okay, there's a change in the data. Okay, fine. Maybe a different data is coming. Now, let me say the same data is repeated, ones and zeros basically. And very importantly, serial communications are very much preferred in digital communication. So when you want to just try to send a digital data, then you prefer serial communication. And whatever sensors we basically use, here also going to use digital information only. Okay, zeros and ones basically. Okay, so you can see that the name itself says UART, Universal Asynchronous Receiver and Transmitter. It means that it is a asynchronous method, which means that it has no clock. It's asynchronous serial communication, which means that do not use any clock. Both transmitter and receiver need to know the bit rate. That's what I was saying. At what speed a bit comes, it should be knowing that. That's where baud rate comes into picture. I'll tell you what is a baud rate and all. Usually when you configure UART, you come across something called as baud rate. All right, I'll tell you what is a baud rate basically. Don't worry. Okay, so this is what basically it works like. If you ask me how the transmission and reception usually happens, by default, your lines will be always high, which means that you can see by default the lines will be high. When the no data are transmitted and received, the lines will be always high. So the transmitter to the receiver, just see that this is a transmitter here at this end and this is a receiver here at this end. Let me say the transmitter, when it's transmit, he just first transmit a start bit by making the default high line to be a low. All right. So that the receiver will now know that, okay, this person is going to transmit. Or let me say this is one packet which is being coming, one packet is sent, or continuously some packets are being sent. Okay. So it will know that when there is a low coming up, the very first time when it experiences a low, it means that it is a start of the transmission. All right. It should know the start of the transmission, and it will be usually it is fixed. Okay. Usually you go for 8-bit transmission. You can also go for higher and a 16-bit transmission, 32-bit transmission. But usually we prefer 8-bit transmission because the receiver will know that there are going to be 8 bits of data going to come. So you can see following that 8 different bits of data. This is the data from this 1 to this 0. This is the data. Okay. So finishing that, it will leave the stop bit. I mean, when it knows the number of bits is going to come, it's 8. After that, it will expect a high because it is now letting the default high to be on so that to mark the end of the application transmission. Okay, so that a start bit is always a low, a high, stop bit is always a high, and between there will be 8 datas. In this, very importantly, to count 8 bits, you should know the data rate. At what data it comes. Very simple reason, just saying, if the transmitter doesn't know what is the size of one bit or how much time one bit will be available, can you see here 000 is coming? It doesn't know how much time one particular bit is going to be available, right? So 0 will come, it will mark as 1 bit. One more 0 has come, maybe it doesn't know when another 0 is coming. One more bit has come, it doesn't know whether it's a new bit or the older bit. All right, so that's where baud rate comes into picture. Usually, commonly, we just configure this to be 9600 as a baud rate. Baud rate is nothing but baud rate per second. Okay, so 9600. There are different types also we have. Okay, 19200. There are different types we have. 9600 is a common thing which is you usually use. Okay, it means that 1 divided by 9600 is the time for 1 bit. I repeat, 1 divided by 9600 is a time for one particular bit, which means that 1 bit, it will count, your receiver will be counting, okay, 1 divided by 9600 second, which will be somewhere equivalent to 104 microsecond, I think. Okay, so it will just count that microsecond, then it will know that that particular bit is completed. Then it will start waiting for the next bit. All right. So even though zeros are in a series of zeros coming, it will just from here, from this point, it will count, 1 divided by 9600 seconds, milliseconds or microseconds, and then it knows that that bit is over. And whatever comes next is considered as the next bit. And once again, whatever is coming next will be considered as the next bit. All right. This is how basically it works. UART. And it's always unidirectional. What is unidirectional? Transmitter to receiver, it's always only unidirectional. If you want to receiver to speak up, then you have to make one more connection. That's why parallel, so that your transmitter will be, your receiver will be then acting as a transmitter, and the previous transmitter will now act as a receiver, and they follow the same architecture. Start bit, 8 bits with the baud rate specified well in advance, and how many stop bit. Okay, so when we configure, we'll configure both, especially very importantly, we don't have to configure the start bit and stop bit because UART knows how it works. Especially 2 things you'll configure. One is baud rate you'll configure for sure. And second thing what you'll configure is, you'll configure the, the number of bits you're going to set. The data length, basically we call it as a data length. Data length and data speed you basically have to set. If not, your receiver will not be receiving the right data. Yes. So coming back to your I2C. So your I2C is, as I told you, it's a synchronous communication, which means that it has a clock. All right. Your I2C has a clock. Unlike previous time, it was a asynchronous where it didn't have a clock, and even your SPI will have a clock. So basically, we call it as a master and slave. Master is a transmitter, slave is a receiver usually. All right. So you have 2 connections between. There are 2 lines which is always connected. One is SDA. SDA stands for serial data. SCL basically stands for serial clock. And you can see here. SDA stands for serial data, and SCL stands for a serial clock. You can see there is always a data which is being transmitting, and one clock is being receiving. This is basically bidirectional data, which means that you can also send the data back from the servant through the same wire. So you can transmit and receive through the same wire. So what it means is you are using the same wire to transmit and receive the data, which means that you can't do it simultaneously. It has to be done one after the other. Either you can transmit through that wire or you can receive through that wire. It means that it is half duplex. All right, your I2C is always half duplex because you have only one line to transmit and receive the data. Right, you can have multiple servants also. It need not be always a single servant. You can have multiple servants. In that case, what happens is the SDA will first send the servant request. It will first send the servant address. Then after sending the servant address, that particular servant will know that, okay, he is talking to me. I mean, all the servants will get the data. Literally, all the servants will be getting the data. It will be parallelly connected, multiple servants. But depending upon the server address, every servant knows their own address. So first, master will send the server address followed by the data. So the address reaches them and also the data reaches them, whereas the other servants will not respond to it, whereas this address, whichever matches to that particular servant, will respond to it. And this all happens on the clock pulse. What is a clock pulse? Nothing but when to transmit, when to receive. Previous time we were talking about the baud rate, right? In the previous application, we were talking about the baud rate. Now, we don't know, since we don't know how much time a particular data is going to be there, we talk about, how many data are going to come. And we'll also talk about, what speed the data are going to come. So based on that, it will calculate the size of a particular bit. All right. It will say this is 1 bit, this is 1 bit, this is 1 bit. It will calculate. Whereas here you will have a continuous clocks. Okay, depending upon what speed of transmission you have, there are multiple ways. Usually, it will not go beyond 5 megahertz. That's the maximum speed your I2C can do. For sensor levels, it will be in few hertz. That's sufficient enough, or kilohertz is sufficient enough. Okay. So there will be a continuous clock pulse happening. So you'll transmit and receive based on that particular clock pulse. So the speed and your data length doesn't matter, but speed especially, and the size of the bit, the chunk size of a bit will be considered by a clock pulse. That is how I2C basically works. Clear? So I'll quickly take you people to one more thing called as serial SPI. I'll come back to the previous slide later. I'll come back to the serial peripheral. I was just trying to show you how multiple devices are going to be connected. Okay, so when I talk about SPI, so SPI basically has 4 connections. SPI will have 4 connections. Same like there's a master and receiver, whereas the master sending a data to a slave is called as MOSI. MOSI is all otherwise called as master out, slave in. Okay, master out or slave in. And same way, the receiving the data back, it's called as MISO, master in, slave out. So the master will send the data to your master will send the data to your servant through MOSI, and your slave will send the data back to your master through MISO. All right, and you also have SCK. SCK basically stands for signal clock. It's a continuous signal pulse. Based on the signal pulse, your transmission will happen and the reception will happen. And there is something called as SS. SS stands for select chip. Okay, we call it a CS or SS, select chip basically. So basically, it will be a low data. It will always be a high data. When you give low, it means that that particular servant is available. So you're talking to the particular slave. See, the servant basically how it works is it'll always keep monitoring the slave select or a SIP select terminal. So whenever it gets a low, it means that that particular servant is supposed to talk. That particular servant is supposed to get the data. And we'll see the clock pulse. Based on the clock pulse, it will try to collect the data from the MOSI. And if it wants to talk back, once again, it will send the data through the MISO. And here you can see, since there are 2 different lines for transmission and reception between the master and slave, this can be bidirectional and simultaneous, which means that it is a full duplex. Getting it? Yes, this is a full duplex. I2C is not a full duplex. Clear? And going further, if you have multiple peripherals for SPI, how this works is, in the master you have multiple chip select or a save select. Okay, so depending, you have to power on either one. Okay, you have to power on either one. Don't try to power on both. So this will be usually digital high and low pins. So when you give digital low, usually by default, like UART, by default it will be in high. So by default, when you just give a low, if CS is low, this particular slave will be enabled. If CS is low, CS2 is low, slave number 2 will be enabled. Either one should be enabled. And then you can see the data are parallelly sent to all the devices. All right. So depending upon which chip select is selected or the save is selected, that particular slave will start interacting with your master. Clear? Any doubt in this? These three different types. Any doubt in this? If there is no doubt, I'll just go for a sensor interface. I'll come back to your. I think there is somebody has pinged me. So any queries, anyone? Okay, nice. Thank you. Fine. If this is clear, I'm going to quickly take you people for a new VI. So I'll right click on my Myrio, new VI. All right. So till now, whatever we were using was just watch here. Now I'm going to show a demonstration for you people on a. Connecting my camera to show you what I'm going to show a demonstration on. So I'm going to show a demonstration to you people on a LCD display. There is a LCD display I have with me. So I'm going to show you how to interface it, how to make it execute, and I'm going to show everything about that. Okay. Fine. This is LCD display I have. There are some pinouts I am supposed to make. Right. The pinouts I have. I'll just quickly talk to you all about this. LCD and tell you how this is basically supposed to be connected. This LCD is a 2-row 16 character. Which means that every row can take 16 characters. So 2 rows you have. So this supports all the 3 different protocols. That's the reason I particularly chosen this LCD, because it supports UART, SPI, I2C, all will be supporting, and you have to command it and then write the data, which I'm going to show you how to do it. All right. Very importantly, I'm going to also tell you, it basically has a command instruction set. So this, to clear or reset, it has a complete set of command. And you can see that I have mentioned it. This is the command set to reset your device. So reset is nothing but clearing your data on the LCD. This is a command as per the data sheet I've just taken. I've just copied and pasted it on the data sheet. Someone has pinged me, I think. I'll come to the. Okay. Fine. This is the command to reset it. I have taken it from the the data sheet. I've just made it here, so that based on this I have done the command. Okay. So going further. These are the programs I have. Okay, coming back to here. See, just watch here. I'm just showing the pinout connection. The back side of this, you can see the pinout connections. I just took a photo and just uploaded here. You can see if you're using, as the name itself says, okay, if you're using I2C, you'll be using this. Sorry, SPI, if you're using, it will be using this, because you can say slave in, slave out, clock, chip select, everything you have here. Right? So this means that if you're using SPI uses pins, and you can see here if you want to just transmit and receive data. Okay, transmit, and you can see that it's a clock here. SCK, this is clock. SDA, this is signal data, which means that if you're using I2C, you'll be using these pins. If you're using UART, transmitter and receiver, you'll be using these pins. Am I clear? So there are list of pins you have. So you have supply, ground, receiver of UART, transmitter of UART, SDA, data of I2C, and SCK, clock of I2C. And coming back here, same like supply, ground, clock signal for SPI, and signal, slave out, which means that if the peripheral want to send the data to your Myrio, this is basically going to be MISO, which means that master in, slave out. This is MOSI, which is going to be master out, slave in, and this is going to be SS. SS stands for chip select or save select. Okay, so this is how the pin connection is supposed to be looking like. And this will be available every day. This is a digital product which can be interfaced with LabVIEW, because when it comes to protocol, if you know how to program the protocol, it's going to be pretty simple. Getting it? Yes. So one more thing is, here you have to make a note of it. So these are the pin connections at the top I told you. Apart from that, here there's a configuration pin. There's a jumper pin which basically shorts them. So based on the jumper pin, you can see if you want to configure the UART, you're supposed to do this connection. Leave the center one open, first and last one to be shorted. When you want a SPI connection, leave the first one shorted, second and third one to be open. And if you want the I2C to be enabled, leave first and second to be connected, shorted, and the third one to be disconnected. Open, right? So this is how you're supposed to do the connection. What I'll do is I'll quickly do the connection for UART. So as per the UART, what is it going to be? The first one and second one should be connected. The center one should be open. I'll come back to my camera to show you people what is the connection I've made. Right? Can you see here? This is how I'm supposed to hold it. Can you see? As per the slide, the first one and last one is shorted, and the center one is left open. I can remove this. It's like open. I can remove this. Not even needed. The first one and second one are shorted using a jumper pin. Right? And now, since I'm going to do a UART first, as per the connection diagram, pin connection diagram, you will see that. You'll see that I'm supposed to use transmitter, receiver, ground. Voltage and grounding here. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll also open the connection diagram for your Myrio. You can see that I can use two connectors, A connector or B connector. They are parallelly similar. I repeat, A is similar to B. So which means that parallelly whatever A can do, a B can also do. All right. So let me say I'm going to use A or B, doesn't matter. The very first pin, 33rd number pin, you can see this is 1, 2, 3, it goes, and this is 33, this is 34, and this is 2, which means that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, up and down. It is basically that way. So at the end, it's going to be 33 and 34. 1, 2, can you see this is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can see that's how it is written. 1 is 5 volt, it goes, and this sensor is 3.3 supply powered. Okay, this sensor is 3.3 supply powered. So I'll keep this aside for my reference. And based on that, I'm going to do the connection. Just watch it. I'll take a pin. Okay, I'll take a female to female connector pin and going to do the connection. 33 pin number. Can you see? I'm using B connector. It can be either one. 33 is the last one I've connected to my supply. Can you see at the bottom? Can you see wherever it says supply? I'm just connecting to it. It is not properly clearly visible. Can you see wherever the V comes, voltage comes, I'm connecting that one to it. Clear. I'll take one more wire. So the ground where I have ground here at the 30th pin. Can you see? I have ground at the 30th pin, D ground, right? I can use 28 or 30, whichever I feel like using. There are multiple grounds here. I use one of them. Connect this and this for grounding. Yes. So with this, you can see the sensor should have powered up. Can you see a hyphen coming here? It means that the cursor is visible, which means that the sensor is powered. The cursor is visible to you, right? Simple two connection, supply and ground. As per the connection you see in the diagram, right? Now, should I use UART transmitter or UART receiver? Which one I'm supposed to use? Tell me. This is a LCD, which is basically a display. I'm supposed to say what text to be displaying there. Am I right? So I'm supposed to use a transmitter or receiver. Here, keep it in mind. Your Myrio will be as a transmitter or master, either way, master or a transmitter. Your sensor will be a slave or a receiver. Both are same, slave or receiver. All right. So I'm supposed to transmit from my Myrio. So I'm supposed to use the pin number 14. Can you see? I'm supposed to use the pin number 14. Any doubts till now? So coming back to the slides, which pin I'm supposed to connect, I'll show you in the Myrio. So coming back here, you can see it has to receive, right? So voltage V is for 3.3, G is for ground, RX for your receiver, I mean LCD receiver. If the LCD wants to say something, wants to talk something, then it uses TX. Whereas from my Myrio, I use TX. From my LCD, I use RX. All right. So I'll take another wire, maybe a different color wire. So connect this one, the third pin, and connect it to 14th pin. Supposed to count it, just a minute. I'll take the help of this one. There's a problem here. We have to just count it, the 14th pin. Okay. So from the center, I believe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7th pin, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. From the left end, it is the 7th pin. Transmitter and receiver here. Can you see just a 3-pin connection? Hope it is visible to you all. Right? Just a 3-pin connection I have made. Yes, simple. Yeah, if this is clear to you people, I'll come back to the lab programming. The connection is done. So coming back to my, as I told you, the commands are needed. I'll quickly copy the command. Okay, this is a command to reset. Only this command I'll copy. Okay. Okay, coming back here. All right, so I can go for my Myrio. You can see if I want to use SPI, I use this. I2C, I use this. UART, I use this. All right. So these are like Express VI. I think from yesterday we are using this a lot. I can also use low-level items. Okay. So what is the difference between Express VI and low-level items is Express VI are allowing you to now configure everything very quickly. Low-level will help you to do the customized programming, which means it's nothing but see, when I just drag and drop UART, for example, I can do this with UART also, just watch. I'll drag and drop UART. So here, I don't develop the program. Rather, what I do is, I just select what are the features I want. See, you can see that I want the A connector or B connector because it's a replication, right? I have the A UART, I have also the B UART. I want to write or read. I want to read all. What is the baud rate I have? What is the data bit length I have? Parity, stop bit, everything is here. All right, everything is mentioned here. I have to just select all the option and say, okay, this particular Express VI will configure it. All right. Rather, I'm going to show you how to do a proper low level also, because that is also needed. Either way, whenever I feel like I have more time, I'll use the low level. Whenever I have quickly to generate something, then I'll go for normal application. So I'll go for UART. So when I see UART, you can see that there are a lot of functions I have. All right. So this you can see there's a serial communication. You can also do it from here, also do it from here. Either way, right? First, what I'll do is I'm supposed to open the connection between them. All right. To open this connection, what I want to do is once again. Okay. So I have open. Okay. VISA open. Virtual Instrument Serial Architecture, VISA stands for. It has been designed by NI. Okay. So I'll right click on this one, create constant, and I'll select A or B. This one is A and this one is B. I'll select B because I randomly chose the B connector to use. All right. So this function is VISA open. Right. And then I'm supposed to configure it. To configure, once again, I go to serial. I'm supposed to say configure port. I told you, right? The same configure port is available in Myrio. low level UART configure port. You can use either one. Okay, so I'll pin it. I'm going to drag and drop this configure. Okay, so from here, I'm supposed to connect this here. And this is the error wire. Can you see the error wire? I can connect the error wires also. In case if there's any error here, the same error will be reflecting on this also. Okay, so the error wires. I told you gold and yellow color, error wires. All right. So when you use the low level items, we'll use this a lot. So you have to say what is the baud rate. Can you see baud rate? Right click, create constant or control. Let the baud rate be 9600 only. It's up to me. You know, whatever which you want to configure, you can configure. It's a baud rate. All right. So apart from that, you know, the number of bits you want, the length of the data. Right. So I'm going to name it as data bit. It's going to be 8-bit data. Others can be the same. Then I want to write it. First, what I'll write is I want it to be cleared. Okay, I want it to clear it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a string constant. Okay, I take a string constant and I try to say the command. This is a clear command, right? This clear command, I will write it first. Okay, this clear command I'm going to write first. First, I'll clear it. Then I'm going to write the actual data I wish to write. Visible item, label, count the same way in sequence. Take a control because control can be on the front panel, right? So what data to write? Okay, so what data you wanted to write? I'll leave it here. So it is 16 characters. Anything you wanted to write on this next line will be after the 16 spaces you really want to get. Right? Finishing this, I'll close it. So you can see it's a sequence of data we are writing. And you know that LabVIEW has a data flow model. So first this executes and sends the memory here. And then this configures and sends the memory here. And this clears your, screen and sends the data. I mean, the LCD screen and sends the data. And this will take a data to write. And after that, it sends here and this will close the memory. Any doubt in what is the configuration I'm doing? This is a low level item. You know, right? We can just simply configure the high level. High level will be pretty easier. So you can just quickly select whatever you want and it works as such. Right? Visa open, Visa configure serial port, Visa write twice. First one to clear the screen, second one to write the actual data. If not, it will keep on writing it on top of it. I'll show you anyway. Okay, what I'll do is I'll also open the camera to you people to show you. Connecting the camera. All right, hope this is visible. I'm just sending hello. And this have to be saved. I'll save this program. I'll name it as LCD UART. And OK. Fine. LCD UART. OK. I'll run the program. Can you see? Hello. Visible. Hello. Okay. So I wish to write hello all. Hello all. Right? Because we're clearing it and writing it again. Write it as LabVIEW UART, for example. Can you see? Whatever I write there, it comes here. LabVIEW UART. And if you want it to be writing in the next line, so first count how many lines it has written. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 lines has gone. Now I'm going to name it, write it as National Instruments. Hopefully the space is enough. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, it's beyond 16, so you'll not be seeing it. So I'm going to name it as National Inst dot. Okay. So I'll save this. Can you see? LabVIEW National Instruments. Getting it? Clear? Yes, this can be also connected from the other pin. So whatever connection I did, if I'm doing in a connector, parallelly you can connect to UART transmitter and receiver. Yes. Any doubts, anyone? How this basically worked? And I'll show you quickly what happens if you are not using, if you are not using this particular thing. So what I'll do is I'll disconnect this. I'll remove and rewire. So I'm not writing this data into it. Okay. Now I'll want to say hello. I'll come back. So you understood what I'm doing? I'm not giving the reset command, just simply writing the data of hello to the previous. You can see that already there is a data of this previous, whatever we wrote, it is there. So if I run this program, can you see? It is started from this, continuing from here, HELLO. Can you see? It keeps concatenating the data. Okay. So if I say, hi all, and run. Can you see? From LO, hi all has come. He's replaced the previous thing. So that's the reason we have to first, what you have to do is, you have to reset it. So to reset, what we do is, see, for example, if I want to reset, I'll delete this, send this. All right. So what I've done is I'm writing the reset command. So if you see here, when I run the program, you can see it has cleared all, reset it. Okay. Now, if I wish to write the data, now I'll pass the actual command data and run the program. It says hi all. Getting it? Yes. So this is how we basically do it. What I do is, set it to be a normal application, like how it's supposed to be. Copy paste the same write command. And then from here to here, this data from here to. If you want to write it continuously, use a while loop. That is it. Okay. Use a while loop, it will work. This is one method of doing it. I'll quickly come to the I2 CTU people. So I'll go to the previous thing. Yeah. Now I'll just quickly do the configuration of SPI. So for SPI, I'm supposed to remove, the first one should be, can you see here? First one should be connected to the jumper pin and closed. The remaining two should be removed. Have done that. Where is the camera? Yeah. Can you see? I've done the connection accordingly. I've removed the extra jumper pin. Okay. Keep it safe so I won't lose it. Okay. Now, Coming back to the connection, I have to come back to your, what to say, your the slides to show you people the connection. So coming back to the connection, we have SPI. So here we have SPI, and once again, I think we have to use only 2 pins. I mean, one is clock. Clock is compulsory needed. The second, what we will be needing is your master out serial. I mean, slave in, which means that MOSI will be needed. The reason is here the master will command what to be written here. So your slave will get the textual data. MISO is not at all needed. The reason why MISO is not at all needed is your LCD screen doesn't. If it is a sensor, you will know that the sensor has to send the data. So let me say if it is a voltage data it is sending, the sensor will be giving the data. Correct. Whereas here it is not the case. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll come to the camera. So you people are seeing the camera, right? So I'll quickly do the connection. So this one I'll remove. Okay, this one also I'll remove. So from the back side, I'm just seeing SC is clock. All right. So this one has to be used here. Okay. This connector I'm supposed to use, the first connector. Okay. And wait a second, I'll just quickly finish the connection diagram. So this has to be clock. The green one, I just leave it to be clock. From the center, 1, 2. Yeah, from the center, 1, 2. Yeah, clock. And then I'll take one more wire for data. So for data, this pin, yeah, is slave in, and connection wise, 1. Can you see the connection? The 4 connections done. Okay, 4 wire connections done. Once again, red is for supply 3.3. Then black one is for ground, same. And then this yellow one is nothing but your MOSI, master out, slave in, which means that the command comes through your yellow pin. And the green is nothing but is your clock pulse. This time we have to make sure that you have to configure the clock pulse. Last time we didn't configure the clock pulse, whereas this time we have to configure the clock pulse. Clear? This is a configuration. You can see there's a clock, and as per the connection of your device, so you have to use this one. Can you see? Voltage, ground, 3.3, ground, clock pulse. Okay, CK stands for clock. Slave in, I'm not using SO. SO is for, slave out. If the sensor want to say something, you have to use SO. Now I'm using SI. Right? So I have only one device, so I'm not using chip select. It can be always low. Always low, because when you are not connecting, it is always low. Which means that that particular device is always on. Simple. When you don't connect it is always low. Okay. So coming back to my LabVIEW program, I'll quickly do the LabVIEW program. You're nearly reaching the lunch time, so I'll quickly do that. Yeah. So I'll take a new VI. So here also we'll be needing I'll copy only this one. This command is needed. I don't type the commands usually. I copy pastes. That's my habit. The reason is I don't want to make mistakes. Usually it happens that we tend to make mistake. So when we type it, so the commands are always supposed to be copy pasted. I used to copy paste these set of commands. So if you know the spellings or anything, then it's okay. But if the commands are there, I just copy paste it. Okay, I'll go to MyRio. I want to use SPI. I once again want to show you a low level. Right? Maybe next one I'll just show you a high level, expressway. For I2C, I'll show you a other one. Either way, it's fine. So I'll have to first open, configure, write, write, close. Why two write? One for resetting the screen, one for writing the data. I'll open. Yeah, I'll open, configure, write twice, and close. I'll align them all and give them all the labels they have, so you'll know what I'm doing. Of course, from here to here, from here to here, here to here, here to here, and select the A or B you're supposed to select. I'm selecting it to be B connector. It can be either A or B, either way. Okay, it's like channel 1 or channel 2, something like that. So here you have configuration. It's pay user configuration, create constant. I'll tell you what is this basically. This is the only thing which is important here. So I'll give the label to them all. So this is a frequency. I'm just transmitting in 1 megahertz frequency. Let it be 1 megahertz, or what frequency the clock pulse has to send. So you are trying to send the data on the leading. The clock has the leading edge and the trailing edge, right? So I'm just using leading edge. So you want this always to be in okay, this is the data, number of data you have, and low or high is nothing but whether you want to clock to be enabled and other things to be on the low pulse or high pulse. That is the one. Clock polarity. Okay. So apart from that, this is the clock leading edge or trailing edge. So you're using the data to be most significant bit first, or the least significant bit first. However you want, just for the system to understand. The receiver to understand, master to understand what type of communication we are doing. So here you can see this will not directly connect. Okay, this will not directly connect. It will throw an error. Okay, in this case, what you have to do is you have to convert it. So to do this conversion, I'll go to string, number string. No, not that. So path array string. In this you have string to byte array. String to byte array you have. So if you connect it, if there's a correlation dot, you have to avoid the correlation dot. This is giving you a data, and this is giving you some other data. So what you have to do is first understand what is the data type it is using. So right click, representation. It is using U16. You are passing U8. To avoid this, you have to do the conversion. So conversion U16, drag and drop this, just to avoid the correlation dot. Just simply to avoid the correction dot from here to here. All right. Then you need a command or the data to the right. Name it as data. All right. So same copy paste, because you have to convert it into U8 data and then convert it into U16. Yes. So this is how your SPI basically works, right? So I'm gonna say, for example, good. Let me check the number of characters. If not, it comes to the next line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 characters is fine, because maximum can take us, you know that it is maximum it can take us 16 character. So I'll come back here. I'm supposed to save this code. Save. So LCD SPI. Oh, sorry, I just closed the. So I'll connect the camera. So USB camera, I'll open. I'll grab the camera details. Yeah. So focus it in such a way it is visible. Yeah. Fine. So I'll run this program. there is some issue. It's configured. Wires may be loose. Let's check if there is any error. Yeah, you can see. Good afternoon. There was a problem with the connection only. The connection was loose. After the connection was made it firm, for example, name it as break time. I'll minimize this so you can see this. The only problem is the connection is pretty loose. Because of that, you have to hold it for a second. Can you see? Once I hold it tight, the data comes. Break time. All right. Yes. So hold it. It's loose. That's the only problem. If the connection was firmer, you know that it is going to be properly working. Yeah, can you see? High on. Getting it? Yes. Only problem is that connection was pretty loose. All right, because it's like pin connections, right? That's pretty loose. Fine. So you just go back for lunch and come back because I want to configure the next is going to be SPI. So we'll go for a lunch break as per the schedule. We'll go for a lunch break and they come back. So coming back, I'll just show you how to connect I2C also. I'll just show you how to program it. And there are other sensors also I have some more sensors. There's one sensor like Asometer sensor we have. It's pretty complex. If I start designing the application, I think it will take a lot of time. But I'll explain you how to do it. I have already done it, partially done, but in the break I'll be completing it. So this sensor I'll show you how to write a program to it, how to select this chip data, everything I'll tell you. All right, fine. So any queries, anyone? Excuse me. So any queries? So if there is no queries, we'll just take a break and we'll just join around 2:30. We'll have a lunch break, 1 hour. Coming back, we'll just see how I2C works. Do you people want to have a hands-on? I don't know. I just want to ask you people whether you want a hands-on. If you need a hands-on, I'll just give you a hands-on also. I'll tell you how to do it, how to simulate this device. Everything I'll show you. You can also try it. You can program it. You can't see the sensor connection. You can't do the sensor connection, other things. So coming back from lunch, let me know if you want, hands-on. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll just meet after the lunch.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
We will come back at 2:30 p.m. Sir.
Sure. We'll get back at 2:30. Thank you.
All the participants are requested to give their feedback on the feedback link which is posted in the chat box. Only give. I will also post it again if somebody has joined now. Kindly fill the feedback form, and we'll come back at 2:30.